Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Vegan and Vegetarian Cooking, featuring a conversation with the Bad Manners team. My name is Carrie Singe, and I'll be your moderator. Your host is Baker and Taylor, and this webinar is sponsored by Penguin Random House. Vegan and vegetarian cooking is on the rise. From Meatless Mondays to documentaries such as The Game Changers, which spotlighted athletes' success at switching to a plant-based diet, plant-based eating is everywhere. According to a Nielsen survey, 39% of the US population is adding more vegan options into their diets. According to Forbes, sales of plant-based products rose 31% between 2017 and 2019. And about 2 out of 3 Americans say they are interested in reducing their intake of meat. So today, we're going to introduce you to some exciting new titles that are coming out this fall that will help your readers fulfill their goals of embracing a more plant-based diet. To start out, we have Michelle Davis and Matt Holloway with the Bad Manners team with us. The Bad Manners blog broke the internet when it debuted in 2012. Their first cookbook quickly became a #1 New York Times bestseller, garnering international acclaim. Their 3 best-selling cookbooks have been translated into over 8 different languages, and their newest installment, Brave New Meal, comes out this November. So please join me in welcoming Matt and Michelle.
Everybody.
How's it going, yo?
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Matt. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Another sunny day in LA here, so no complaints.
Fantastic. So excited to have this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all having us.
Absolutely. I thought we'd start at the beginning. If you could share your journey with us, when you guys decided to go vegan or vegetarian, and kind of talk about that journey toward a plant-based life for yourself.
Sure. Actually, I have been vegan for 19 years, which makes even the crunchiest granola people in LA kind of gasp. But I went vegetarian as a kid. I was just one of those sensitive kids who couldn't, differentiate between reading Charlotte's Web and then my mom's pork chops. And my whole family eats meat. I was just that difficult child who was going through a phase. And look at me now. And then I went vegan when I left the house. And, back then, this was in the early 2000s, it was just brown rice and lentils. And so I had to learn to, create all these recipes and cook for myself and make food exciting for me. You couldn't go anywhere. There were no restaurants or anything like that, even here in California.
And I had been vegan since probably 2011 now, around the time that we started the blog. And for me, it was dietary. I was having really bad acid reflux, and my physician, gave me a prescription and was like, you just take these now. And I was like, how often, how long, when do I get off of it? They're like, no, you take these every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on how bad it is for the rest of your life.
And then we met, and I was like,
and at the time, I think I'm like 24, 25. And I'm like, you're not talking to me about diet, lifestyle, like none of that. It's just like, here's a prescription and we'll fix it. But so meeting Michelle, she was like, hey, try cutting meat and dairy out of your diet and see how you feel. So I did. It went away almost overnight. I didn't take the prescription, and I have been vegan ever since.
Oh, that's great. I love how you both have your own journeys, but kind of ended up at the same place.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and so for people who are interested in embracing a plant-based lifestyle, maybe either dipping their toes in, giving it a try, what advice do you have for people who are interested, just starting out?
This is our favorite question.
Yeah, because I guess I'm the newer vegan.
For sure.
I would recommend next time you go grocery shopping, swapping out just a few ingredients with plant-based products. Don't go into your pantry and just throw everything away, because it's going to be really overwhelming.
Yeah, don't do it like you do a New Year's resolution where you're just like, I'm going to do this forever.
Yeah.
Like you're setting yourself up for failure.
So replace your dairy milk with a plant-based milk, replace your butter or your margarine with plant-based, you just little things at a time. And before you know it, eventually your entire pantry will be plant-based. And don't try to replace things that you're used to. If you eat chicken Alfredo 2 or 3 nights a week, don't try to go
don't immediately.
Yeah, like that's a mistake. Like use this as an opportunity to explore different things.
Yeah, try foods that are outside of your comfort zone. Make new recipes and fall in love with different kinds of food instead of just immediately trying to replace your burgers. I feel like a lot of people do that, and it just it sets them up for disappointment. So use this as an opportunity. There's so many foods in this world and so many vegetables that you haven't tried or that you don't cook with regularly, and so it's not a restriction. You're opening new windows. And if you think of it that way, you're a lot more likely to be successful and to enjoy the process instead of focusing on what you're not eating.
We want y'all to be able to walk through the produce section of your grocery store or your farmer's market and not panic. Like you should be able to pick up any ingredient, and I promise you, we have a recipe for you.
Well, I love how easy you make it for people, that this isn't like this overwhelming idea of a massive sudden change, that you kind of can walk into this at your comfort level, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's, you know, we've all tried to make big changes in our lives, and we know when you kind of are a real stickler about it, you're just going to set yourself up to be a disappointment. Like if I'm going to all of a sudden start running and I'm like, I'm going to run 3 miles every day. I've never done that. You're going
to get shin splints immediately. Yeah, so don't do that.
Yeah. And it should be fun. And I feel like when you, again, focus on what you're restricting or what you're not eating, it's not fun. And at the end of the day, chips and salsa are vegan. So.
Well, and Michelle, you were talking about with your journey, when you started, that there weren't a lot of options. And you both have now been in the cookbook space probably about 10 years, about a decade now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the changes you've seen in this landscape.
It is bananas. I love it so much, just as a consumer of all of these products. When we got started, when we were pitching our first book, we were meeting with publishers like, oh, we published a vegetarian book last year, or we published a vegan book this year. Like we can't do another one for a while. Or people told us that vegan books don't sell. So maybe we should make a vegetarian or a meat or all of these things.
That was a weird one, is publishers being like, you can do maybe half of it vegan, but you can't be completely vegan because they just don't sell well. And
look at us now.
It was discouraging.
But yeah, so it's been wonderful to kind of see the stigma drop away from, just trying to eat a little bit better and just seeing that, the science supports plant-based diets, that people want to feel like they're making good decisions. It's good for the environment. It's good for you. There's just not a lot of downsides to doing it other than just a small learning curve. And luckily, we grew up going to, regular neighborhood markets. We don't come from a money background at all. And so we wanted to create these recipes that were accessible to people. So, you're not going to see the things that you see on TikTok in our cookbooks where they're just these almost pornographic piles of food that are going to take you 8 days to make, and that they're just a heart attack on the plate, even if they don't contain any animal products.
When Michelle was suggesting that I cut meat and dairy out of my diet, I think I have a misconception about veganism that a lot of people do, is I'm like, that's expensive. I can't do that. It's really not. If you're buying the meat and cheese replacements, it can be for sure. But like Michelle said, neither of us come from any sort of financial secure background. And
beans and rice.
Yeah.
They stay cheap.
The cheapest, yeah. Produce is cheap, and everything is seasoning. If Taco Bell has taught us anything, people don't care what's in their food as long as it tastes good. So.
Well, I love the idea of keeping everything accessible. And so with your new cookbook, Brave New Meal, it really focuses on using ingredients that people have already in their pantry. It's really accessible. Can you talk about kind of the approach and the thinking that went into how you're going to put this cookbook together and why you decided to go that way?
Yeah, that's how I cook at home. I worked in grocery stores for almost a decade, and so I try to minimize my trips to the grocery store because I end up spending an hour and a half in there because I have to talk to every single person I know. And so, I want to cook from my pantry. And also we were finalizing a lot of these recipes at the beginning of the pandemic. And, that was when grocery shopping was really fraught. you know, the shelves were bare. We were sanitizing our products and leaving them on the patio for 4 days. And I just really wanted to make it so people felt confident about cooking with stuff that they already had, that they're already comfortable with, and to just limit the number of trips to a grocery store. Because I know when I basically taught Matt how to cook, when he would get to an ingredient he didn't recognize, or he didn't have on hand,
You give up.
He would just fold completely.
It's intimidating, you know, like Michelle was saying, there is a learning curve, and because everything is already seems so daunting, because it is uncharted territory for the individual. You get to that one roadblock and it's a very easy, I'm done. I'm going to go back to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was important for us to, you know, have our experiences in the kitchen and shopping reflected in the book. You know, we don't live in a bubble.
Well, and the recipes in the book. So there's a lot of substitutions offered for the ingredients. And I'm really interested in hearing how you come up with your recipes, and if you try every variation before putting in the book. So can you kind of share some of this creative process with us?
Sure. So number one, this book is our most lived in book that we've ever written. You know, our other 3 titles we wrote in a year, each one, just because that was kind of the trajectory of our careers at the time. And this one, we've really got to live with these recipes and cook them over and over again. And I got to make all these substitutions, just testing and playing based on what I had in the kitchen, making for friends, making, you know, for family. And it's always been important to me to have a lot of substitutions, because like I said, I worked in a grocery store for a long time, and people bring out, you know, printed recipes or cookbooks into the grocery store. And they ask you, they're like, hey, like, and we'll be out of something, or they're like, I don't like mushrooms. Like, what can I do? And so I try to help past me by including those in my recipes, because I know people, again, a roadblock to cooking for people is what they have or what they like. And I want to give people, you know, almost no excuses in the kitchen. And yeah, so I also like to mix things up too. So if I, you know, don't want to go to the farmer's market to get squash blossoms, I want to tell people, like, you don't need that, just leave it out. But I want people to have the opportunity to zhuzh and show off if they have a little bit of extra time.
I think we were both surprised when we got into writing cookbooks professionally. And like Michelle said, she was a cashier at a grocery store at the time. How many cookbooks do recipe development and testing, and they're done in professional kitchens by, you know, trained chefs, and that's great. But we give our recipes after Michelle and I have both cooked it 2 or 3 times, and we feel that it's in a good place. We give our recipes to friends, families, mostly non-vegans,
and people
we say,
who aren't good cooks.
Yeah, and we say, you know, here's the recipe. Cook this. If you have any roadblocks, if you don't understand something,
like, tell us
if
where
it tastes odd to you, like, you know. And a lot of that feedback that we get is someone saying, I don't like mushrooms, or I can't find this ingredient, or I don't know what this ingredient is. What should I sub out?
Yeah.
And that's where we're trying to meet people where they're at.
Yeah. And so a lot of the times too, you'll see in the footnotes of our recipes, I'll say, if it's kind of a weird ingredient, where to find it in the grocery store. And again, that's just a legacy of me working in the grocery store.
I want to dig deeper into these recipes that people are going to be able to see in Brave New Meal. Can you pick some favorites and talk about them, and just why you're excited about them?
Sure. I mean, it is a little bit like picking favorite children, but I've been really excited for people to see our beetaroni pizza, which you actually had on the slide, which I was really excited about. I don't like fake meat products. You won't see them in our cookbooks. You know, plenty of people like them. Matt likes them, but I just don't cook with them. I also think they're prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. So I try to get ingredients, you know, that I know you're going to be able to find at Ralph's or Vaughn's or Food Lion. And so I wanted to create kind of the feel of that pizza party pizza you would have after like a soccer game or something like that. And so I created these beetaronis. So it's pepperonis made of beets. And it sounds like hippie nonsense, but I knew I was onto something when, like, it was the 3rd batch I was testing. All of the dogs at the house like came into the kitchen. We have like
we have 3 foster dogs in our office, and they all ran into the kitchen.
And they're like, is she finally cooking meat? I was like, no, guys, I have tricked you too.
And but that was another one that we, after developing it, getting the flavor down, the cooking process, actually serving it to non-vegans, and they could not tell that it was beets.
Yeah.
They were like, this taste, the texture, the flavor, like everything tastes like normal pepperoni that they're used to. And every book that we do, there's normally like 1 or 2 recipes that we start to see after the book comes out popping up
on menus. Yeah.
And like, it's a compliment, but like I do think the beetaroni is definitely going to be one of those things that start. Trust me, next year beetaroni is going to be in every vegan restaurant. Like, so
yeah, that's one we're really excited about, the blueberry thyme jam rolls.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
I'm really excited about those. They walk this line of sweet and savory that I really, really love. And, you know, we all had a little bit more time on our hands during the pandemic. And so I was like, I'm going to give them a couple yeasted recipes. I think they can handle it now.
Yeah, people, I don't know what it was, the pandemic, people just have more time. Everyone's like, I'm gonna learn how to bake.
Yeah.
So Michelle's like, all right, I'll meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
There's that book is full. It's like Michelle said, it's the longest book that we've ever had time with. It has the most recipes. There's a lot of real bangers in there, but like, I'm going to step outside of that question just for a second. We have an ebook that's a pre-order incentive that we just uploaded to our website. So when people pre-order the cookbook, they can go to our website, they can enter their information, and they get this free ebook that is completely separate from the actual cookbook. It's called Vice House. And we based it off like Southern recipes. So I'm from Texas. I don't know if you hear that in my voice or not. And in Texas, we have ice houses. And, you know, we wanted to veganize ice house food, so we called it Vice House. And we created an ebook. It's free if you pre-order the book. And my favorite recipe is got to be the Dr. Pepper pulled jackfruit sandwich that we have in there. We've given it to so many non-vegans and they can't believe that it's vegan.
And in the Brave New Meal, we have a Nashville hot chicken style recipe that we do with mushrooms that is delicious and gorgeous. And a green grape pie, which was also on the side there.
Oh, the mushroom asada that we have in the new book. I mean, we could, there's so many, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, we're very proud of this book. Like we keep saying, this is our most lived in book. So these recipes are family now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that beetaroni pizza picture, that photograph is very impressive. I found myself admiring it and looking at the beets and thinking, those are beets? That's not pepperoni?
Matt takes all our photography, and he has spent the last couple years, you know, taking some photography classes and apprenticing for some people, and he really brought the heat this time. It's as much a coffee table book as it is a cookbook. So I'm so glad you noticed that. The photos, I'm really proud of Matt and his journey in photography.
Oh,
it is beautiful.
Very sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we pride ourselves on like being self-taught, because Michelle's not a classically trained chef. You know, we tell people we're cooks, you know, and then same thing with photography. A lot of it is like YouTube tutorials, you know, like I took a lot of like, you know, even though we had written 3 books, I took a lot of free jobs with other photographers to learn different skills, lighting, things like that, to apply it to the books going forward. And
because it's just us.
Yeah. So
make a great team.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and I'm interested in, you know, you're talking about YouTube and kind of, you know, do it yourself. It's trends maybe that you're spotting in the vegan and vegetarian space. Can you kind of talk about what you're seeing? We've talked a little bit about how the cookbook landscape has changed, but trends that are happening now and what's kind of exciting you?
Oh, good question. Well, I mean, in trends, you know, you see a lot like kind of the food porn recipes where it's like, no one in their right mind is going to make this. This is
it's conspicuous consumption. You know, it's like they have this really decadent dish or something, and like Michelle was saying, it was you know, pornographic food, but no one's eating that. It's not practical. It's also incredibly expensive if you were to make that. So,
but what I'm really excited about is kind of the American palate has changed. It's gotten a lot more elevated in the last couple of years, and we're so much more open to just global spices, just moving outside of ketchup and hot sauce and thinking salsa is, you know, the most exotic thing you can have in your pantry. So I'm really excited to see that come over to the vegan and vegetarian space, because there is a global history of vegetarian and vegan cooking all over the world. And so I love to see all of these recipes kind of get elevated, and to get the local markets to have all of these vegetarian and vegan friendly ingredients and spices outside of black pepper and salt. And I think that our country is finally ready to, stretch out and try new things. You couldn't get jackfruit, even in Los Angeles, outside of a couple Southern Indian markets until like 5 years ago. And now Trader Joe's carries it across the country. Like I love to see that kind of just ingredient base expanding. Of course, there's tons of ready-made meals and all of that now, but just giving people the ingredients that they want so that they can try all these new recipes and then these new ways of eating, I think is so exciting.
I think around the time that we had created the website and I had been vegan for only about a year or two at that point, when you think about vegan or plant-based eating, probably the number one ingredient people will think of is like kale. And now, like Michelle's saying, there is this wide variety of ingredients that are more accessible.
Yeah, and Americans aren't just eating button mushrooms. We know what maitake are. We know, portobellos are like seen as ancient now because we're so far past all of that. So it's so wonderful.
Yeah, I was just in Texas visiting some family, and I was so pleasantly surprised to see how many restaurants that I went to that were offering more plant-based options, and this is in Houston, this is like barbecue country. So that is a very exciting trend to see more sort of red meat territory embracing plant-based options. And not just like, Impossible Burgers they're fine. They serve a purpose. And the meat replacements, but they're creating entire dishes that are just vegetable forward, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think people saying that you don't like vegetables is no longer acceptable.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Yeah.
Well, Matt, I think as you said, it does seem like a really exciting time right now with all the options that are becoming available. And my last question is really just, what have we not talked about? What haven't I asked that you would like to share with our audience today? Kind of throwing this out there.
Oh, it's a good question.
Don't be afraid. Try new things. If I can be like a case study, I came from, at the time that I was going vegan, I worked as a production assistant here in LA, which is a brutal schedule. You are just absolutely at the bottom of everyone's list. You get paid the least, you work the longest hours. There's no time to cook. My diet consisted of heavily processed foods. It was a drive-through diet, a lot of energy drinks, Mountain Dew. And I got to tell you, if I can do it, I truly mean this, anybody can. So don't be afraid. I know it's intimidating. I know there's a learning curve, but there's a lot of resources out there. Our website's free. There's no advertising on our website. We don't track users' data or anything like that. We have 3 cookbooks, fourth one coming out in November. Just if you are curious, maybe just do it one meal a week.
Yeah, and just whatever kind of sounds good to you. Don't get too in your head about it. And there's so many resources, like Matt's saying, and we run our social media. We are there to help if people have cooking questions. And I would say when you're trying to go vegetarian or vegan, take it as the opportunity to try new foods. Like we said, don't just be like, okay, I'm going to get the vegan cheese pizza from the place around the corner now. Like, no, try new and exciting dishes. This is a time to try, different global cuisines that have this heritage of vegan and vegetarian cooking. Like, go try some Ethiopian food, like, go do some Shojin Japanese cooking. Like, try all these different things because there's a whole world of food out there outside of lemon chicken. So give it a go.
Well, and why don't you share how people can find you? You mentioned the book coming out on the website or your blog, but how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find us across social media on pretty much every platform. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. We have a YouTube channel at Bad Manners Food.
We might be at the Central Library sitting in a chair.
we were saying before this, we're in our studio right now, but we have our library cards. I should have brought them. We're avid library goers. We grew up in libraries, love libraries.
Yes.
Our favorite compliment is that we get librarians emailing or DMing us that our cookbooks rarely get returned. So that's a compliment.
But yeah, we appreciate all the work. We know that they are such a vital resource to each and every community. Like you said, they were our babysitters. I got so many A's tickets growing up for my family because I did the reading charts for the kids in the Bay Area, and you'd get free A's tickets. So my dad had me at the library. But yeah, you can find us anywhere and everywhere, but shout out to all the librarians out there. We really, really appreciate you.
Yeah. Badmanners.com. Also, just for the book, bravenewmeal.com also. And at the bottom of the page for Brave New Meal, if people get the book, they can enter their information where they bought the book, when they got it, and they'll get the free ebook. That should be live right now. I'll check.
No, it is. I checked this morning.
As soon as this is over with.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're always here to help.
Yeah, appreciate everything that y'all do. So
fantastic. Well, we appreciate you and your time. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Enjoyed our conversation, and I'm leaving a little hungry. I'm looking forward to trying all these new recipes.
It's the worst. I was hungry the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Great, absolutely. Well, and to our audience, as we've been talking about, interest in vegan and vegetarian options is definitely growing. And luckily, there are a lot of titles coming out this fall that people can choose from in addition to Brave New Meal. So let's go through and let's talk about some of them. So we are going to start out here with the Weekday Vegetarians. This is the latest cookbook from Jenny Rosenstrack, best-selling author of Dinner, a Love Story. Jenny and her family are weekday vegetarians, meaning they eat a vegetable-based diet during the week and save meat for the weekends. The Weekday Vegetarians shows readers how Jenny got her family on board with meatless meals. She uses hooks that make any vegetarian dish irresistible, things like crispy chickpeas or pizza dough croutons, or next-level sauces like vegan Caesar, and side dishes that make everything special, such as yogurt flatbread. The Weekday Vegetarians offers 100 recipes organized by meal type. Dishes like enchiladas 2 ways or barley bowls with chickpeas, roasted vegetables, and avocado dressing will help you practice being a weekday vegetarian. And who knows, perhaps you'll find your plant-based eating carrying on into the weekend. The Weekday Vegetarians went on sale August 31st. And here we have Provecho. When Edgar Castrejón adopted a vegan lifestyle as a college student away from home for the first time, he worried that he would no longer fit in at the table with his family. Realizing that a plant-based diet made him feel better, but wanting to continue to enjoy the authentic flavors of Mexican and Latin American cuisines, Edgar began transforming the traditional meat-heavy recipes into inventive plant-based creations. Provecho, which is a Spanish expression for wishing someone a good meal, is a celebration of food and family, honoring their traditional recipes of Mexican culture while cooking with compassion. Provecho features 100 vegan recipes, many of which take 30 minutes or less and rely on readily accessible ingredients. The cookbook is organized by how meals were approached in Edgar's family and also includes Salvadorian and Colombian influences. There are recipes for dishes like pozole verde, elote asado, oat milk horchata, and so much more. Provecho is on sale October 12th. Next up, we have Running on Veggies. Lottie Bilderici is a triathlete and nutrition coach behind the popular Running on Veggies blog. After finishing treatment for stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma at age 15, Lottie fell in love with running and completely transformed her lifestyle with a mindful approach to eating and exercise. As an Adidas nutrition coach, she has led teams around the globe to healthier mindsets by leveraging their diets for enhanced performance. In her first book, she shares these recipes, and she offers more than 75 mostly plant-based, dairy-free, and meat-free options to maximize workouts and enhance nutrition to perform at peak levels. There are 5 pescatarian recipes in Running on Veggies, which also features recipes contributed by world-class athletes, including Kara Goucher, Colleen Quigley, Emma Coburn, and many more. With pre-run and recovery recipes, a 2-week performance plan, and supplemental sidebars throughout, it's designed to be inclusive of all levels of athletic performance, from novice to expert. Running on Veggies is on sale December 7th. And here we have Goodful Plant and Planet. Goodful is BuzzFeed's health and wellness vertical with a reach of over 22 million followers on Facebook. With Plant and Planet, readers get more than 75 plant-based recipes, as well as low waste strategies to help build a more sustainable life. There are recipes for every meal, from squash breakfast bowls to grilled fruit and corn salad, to potato donuts with fruit glaze and basil sugar, and so much more. Plant and Planet includes shopping guides and meal plans, along with information about repurposing food waste with a guide to growing your own ingredients. Featuring contributions from experts like Lauren Singer, Nadia Hussein, and Kaylise Rogers. This is your low-stress, high-impact path to a low-waste kitchen. Plant and Planet is on sale December 7th. And here we have Unbelievably Vegan. You may recognize private celebrity chef Charity Morgan from The Game Changers, which is a documentary that featured Charity and how she inspired more than 24 Tennessee Titan NFL players, including her husband, Derek Morgan, to eat plant-based to enhance their on-field performance. Unbelievably Vegan is her highly anticipated first cookbook featuring over 100 big, bold vegan recipes. From fluffy vanilla pancakes to kickin' Cajun Caesar salad to mac and cheesy three-ways, Charity breaks the myth that giving up animal protein means sacrificing taste. And she proves that vegan food can be healthy, fun, filling, and highly flavorful. Unbelievably Vegan goes on sale January 18th. Well, this wraps up our conversation about vegan and vegetarian cooking. Thank you again so much to Michelle Davis and Matt Holloway behind the Bad Manners team, the Bad Manners blog, and their new cookbook, Brave New Meal, which comes out in November. I really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you to Penguin Random House for sponsoring this webinar. And thank you to all of our audience for your time. We really appreciate it. You can stay in touch with Baker and Taylor by connecting with us at www.btol.com. You can also find archives, including this one, at webinar.baker-taylor.com/archives. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much for your time. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.